That's surprising. I thought there would be. Okay. Then number 2 is Administrative Officer, Director of Finance Report, Mr. Genovese.
Thank you, Matt. How's everyone?
We're good.
Good.
How are you, Tony?
Good. So the year-end results through April of 2021 is about a $238,000 surplus. So that would bring us drawdown at the end of the year of our fund balance of about $163,000, which would bring us in about 12.7% of our annual projected expenditures.
Okay.
When I did this report, our tax collections were projected to be on budget, but since then we've received some back tax collections, and tax are coming in have come in quicker and faster than we anticipated. So our taxes will probably be a sort of surplus there. So that'll help add to the reduce the shortfall. Intergovernmental revenues, a surplus of $160,000, mostly due to the coronavirus relief funds and FEMA funds, which offset COVID-related costs from FY20. We did receive some additional ECS funding as well. Investment income is, as we've discussed previously, a deficit of $130,000. That continues. Charge for services have a deficit of about $48,000. Most of that is from our deficit in transfer station fees, which we've reduced in the next year's budget, but we've made some of that up with surplus in town clerk fees. That'll be about $20,000, and for a building permit, we're doing well also. Finally, in our transfers in, we still have a deficit of about $60,000 for our private duty. There was very little private duty this year compared to past years. That's really a wash, however, because that's mainly pays for benefit costs related to private duty. For our expenditures, our building official is projected to experience a surplus of about $20,000. That's mainly due to the part-time wage in his department, because he only works as necessary. So he has a surplus there. A transfer station does have a surplus in expenditures as well, mostly due to a $85,000 waste disposal fee surplus. Some offset to that because we've had some increases in recycling and bulky waste. Human Services is projected a surplus of $30,000. That's mainly due to savings in wages. And finally, there's a surplus in benefits. Because of the reduced private duty, we have reduced benefit costs related to private duty. That's one of the main reasons for that surplus. In addition, we had some savings in workers' compensation and some healthcare. Some employees changed their healthcare status, which was favorable. Lastly, which is not in this, the Board of Education has reported a possible surplus this year as well. So we'll see you there. That's
okay. Any questions for Tony on this? All righty. I guess Woodbridge Board of Ed monthly and the Amity quarterly, we'll cover those under liaison, Tom. I'll do one, you do one. All right. Anything else, Tony?
No, that's it.
Okay, you were asked to update on the budget status.
So, in terms of next year's budget, you mean?
Yeah, I guess. Ellen, yeah, Ellen, why don't you?
Yeah, I asked for that so that we could just all. I guess there was a little informal discussion earlier, but the fact is that the annual town meeting did not conclude, and it was just to update where we are. I think there's a new date now for the continuation.
There is. Yes, it's
June 2nd. June
2nd, right.
At what time? Do you know?
6:30, I think.
6:30, right. And there'll be early check-in at 5:30, I believe.
That's what
it's at the firehouse.
I'll discuss this a little later on. I'll get some things I want to bring up about, because I think there's a very, very definite misunderstanding about how the town meeting works and what you can or can't accomplish. And I'm going to, having lived through the only one, I think Karen looked it up. It was 1988, Karen? It was the only one I can remember other than the Woodbridge Country Club town meeting.
1988 is what Jerry Shaw told me today.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said it's 87, 88. Now I'll go through the gyrations because I don't think people fully understand what the town meeting can or can't accomplish. So we'll talk about that. So
Okay,
as
so-
far as the budget is what we've discussed. Nothing has changed, and just going to be how we're going to handle this town meeting.
Just in case anyone who was so involved and concerned the other day is interested, I think anything we know about this meeting. So it's June 2nd, and is it masks required and social
Yes.
distance? No?
Yes,
So,
both of those, yes.
okay, good.
We'll talk
And
about
there's going to be a postcard. We're putting together a postcard with all those details, and it will be mailed to every household.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
great.
believe we're hopeful to get it to the printers tomorrow and probably be mailed by mid next week. It'll have all about the social distancing. It'll explain how the process works, where it's located, and all those details.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that a little later on. Do we have funding requests, Karen? I don't see any in here.
There are two.
There are? Did I miss them? Okay, I might have missed them when I printed this stuff up. Let me see. You're gonna have to bail me out if I don't have them because, oh yeah, here we go. I got them.
Matt, the amended agenda has changed the order of the
Oh,
agenda
okay.
items.
I got you. All right, so we have two funding requests. One is line item transfer 2021-24 in the amount of $8,000, and it's a request to pay contractor to assist with mowing due to a severe manpower shortage in the Parks Department, I guess. Okay. You want to briefly go through this, Tony?
Sure. So we are having, although it's gotten a little bit better, a difficult time finding seasonal help to mow our fields. And believe it or not, we've advertised many times. Karen could attest to this. We've advertised many times. We've received some candidates, but they did not pass our testing. We have like a background check and drug testing and a number of other things. So those candidates did not pass. So in the meantime, the grass continued to grow. So we had a local contractor not volunteer, but help us to mow the fields until Adam can get a full staff.
Yeah, it's a problem with I'm obviously I have clients. I had clients, restaurant clients on Mother's Day did a third less business because they can't get waitresses. So it's tough. It's a real problem because unfortunately the unemployment is so lucrative.
That's one of the main reasons.
Yeah, right.
We've heard that from a few people that we've approached.
Yeah.
Said that they can. Why work when they can
Right.
collect unemployment?
Why go cutting grass and getting all sweaty and covered in bugs when I can sit home and make $600 a week? So it's a real
Tony,
problem.
who did we end up contracting with? Or
Chris Sorensen.
oh, okay, good. All right.
All right, then I'm going to make a motion that we approve line item transfer 2021-24 in the amount of $8,000.
Second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? I see you all. Raise your hands. Let's see. Tom, who am I not seeing? Susan.
I'm here.
I
You're
see
good?
her.
I don't see you, but you're good with this?
Where am I muted?
So it's unanimous.
Yeah, it's unanimous.
Okay. Next is line item transfer 2021-25 in the amount of $15,198.78, and it's basically to transfer grant and donation funds to Bike Route Capital Project. And there's a memo in here from Betsy. You just want to quickly mention how this works, Tony?
Sure. So Betsy applied it's a program where she collects donations up to a certain point for a bike group, which is basically a 5-mile bike route that will be placed in Woodbridge, which will have bike racks, will have signs, solar powered speed awareness, and other things to help bikers along the route. And there was a grant program where she raised a certain amount of money that would match it. So she was able to do that, and so the total is $15,200. Most of the expensive items are the solar powered speed awareness signs. You've seen them. They show you how fast you're going when
So
you
it's
drive by them.
no town funds, correct?
No town funds, no.
So we're just transferring money over.
Yeah, we're just transferring it.
It's just you're appropriating the so we can use the grants.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 2021-25 in the amount of $15,198.78.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that?
I
All
have
in
a question.
favor?
I don't know if you, will there actually be bike lanes? Are they gonna paint bike
So
lanes?
that's a little more expensive, and we didn't quite have enough for that part of the program. I mean, that could be a future expenditure if this turns out to be a popular thing. We could in the future paint bike lanes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, looking good. All righty. Appointment of auditor. Tony, go ahead with that.
So every year, the Board of Finance is the audit committee appoints our auditor. And we have to appoint our auditor to the State of Connecticut Office of Policy and Management. It has to be a certified auditor. This year, we went out to RFP for audit services because we hadn't done that in about 4 years, I think it's been. So usually you do a multi-year audit so that you can encourage new auditors or other auditors to bid aggressively because it's a multi-year audit. So we went out to bid this year and we received 5 responses. And the low bidder was RSM, who's our current auditor, which would be a 4-year total cost of $219,500. So, I mean, I think they do a great job. They have a lot of other they have other towns that they also audit. We've been satisfied with their service. So I had no reason to say we wouldn't use them, and they were the low bid. But that's the.
I think having you, Tony, handling this, that's the key to this, the audit. You basically give them everything they need. It's never been a problem. And again, while some people say, "Oh, you got to switch auditors," because I don't necessarily agree with that. I think we're fine with what we have. They're the low bidder, and to start with a whole new auditor would be an awful lot of work.
It's a lot of work, correct?
And I just don't see where it's necessary. So I'm in favor of it. So anybody else have any comments on that?
Oh, I'll make the motion.
Okay. All right.
Second.
Second. Okay. Any discussion?
I was just going to say, if they had not been the low bidder, we might have a more difficult choice.
That's
Yeah.
correct. You're correct.
And the
Yeah.
town work with them and they're the low bidder, it seems reasonable.
I have a
That's
question.
correct.
Can you
Yes.
hear me, Tony?
Yes.
Okay. I had to step away for a second. If you said this, I apologize. Is there a legal requirement that you must change auditors at some interval that I'm not familiar with?
There's not a legal requirement. There used to be a best practice that VFOA had, but they've actually since rescinded that. So it's no longer sort of a best practice anymore.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's it's something to consider based on your individual circumstances, but not to just change auditors just for the sake of changing them.
Okay. Thank you.
I do want to make a comment in my other capacity as chair of the Woodbridge Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And that is to say that one of the areas that we think is important, although we haven't delved into it yet, is contracting and town employees and really increasing the diversity of the town and who we contract with. So I think in that regard, there's no policy yet and we haven't really looked at it. But I think the question will be and I'm sure you do, Tony, just to be sure that we put out our RFPs and we advertise in ways that reach people in all different ways, so that we have.
It would be, Ellen. I wouldn't mind getting some suggestions If you,
Okay.
if your committee can come up with ways to advertise that maybe not traditional.
Okay, great. We haven't gotten to that, but I think that that's one of the themes that keeps coming up. So we will work
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, great.
Thank-
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
Okay, then all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Good. Okay, good to go. All right, next on the agenda is the discussion and possible action on capital projects. This is the bond issue that's going to be, of course, this is going to go to a town meeting, correct, Tony?
That's correct.
So the townspeople will get to voice their concerns, and I think we've learned our lesson, and this is going to have to be a live meeting. This is a
Correct. Yep.
it's not a large, it's really not a large bond issue, but it's something that's going to have to be at a live meeting because there's some controversial things on here, and I think people are going to want to be heard on them. So, but our job tonight is just to recommend that these capital projects are sent or moved to a town meeting where residents will have the final say on whether these go through. So
What'll happen is, I'll just give you a little bit about the process. So what'll happen is, once you decide in what form this would take to, and recommend, that to, bring to a town meeting, then, our bond council will draw up all the documents, the authorization documents, and then you would meet to, approve those documents, and the board of selectmen would then schedule the meeting.
okay,
And so each one of these, there used to be, when I first started out, they used to bundle a lot of these together. And so you would do one bond issue with all of these in one bond issue. So when I approached our bond council, because usually when we do a bond issue here, we do it for one item. So we haven't really done a bond issue here for multiple items since I first started in 2003. I think we did a few things. So since then, the IRS has, from what he tells me, tightened up some of the legislation, some of the regulations surrounding this. So he has strongly advised us, and we have agreed to have each of these a separate vote. So
okay.
each of these is a separate vote at the meeting. So some of them may pass, some of them may not.
And do we have to consider them individually? I think so.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you should consider them individually, although the selectmen just did it in one motion because they approved them all.
Okay.
But yes, you could consider them.
I'm gonna go through them one by one.
And if you need more information or whatever, I can certainly get that for you. But I tried to give you a summary of each one and then the financing for each.
Okay.
All right,
So
Tony,
why don't we start
can
with
I just
number
ask a
one, which
question
is
before we start? And I think it applies to all of them.
Yes.
So the cost that we have here at the bottom, the total project cost, do those costs include any kind of increase in construction material costs from the time that they were quoted? Because a lot of
Yes, actually, if you look in the soft costs, the board of selectmen actually put this in, and it's after speaking with David Stein, it's called the escalation contingency.
Okay, that was my next question. So they're only looking at 5% escalation from when these were quoted, because
That was David's recommendation based on his knowledge of the construction industry and the particular commodities and that are used in these particular projects. For instance, he suggested that we have a contingency for escalation costs for the firehouse and the storage facility, and but not for the senior center or the other projects. Because I think those projects maybe were using a lot of lumber, and that lumber was one of the items that was going up in price, but some commodities are not. So that's how we came up with that.
okay, that's good. That was my second question. So that has been considered, and the Board of Selectmen has okayed that 5%.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a contingency, so it's if there's no escalation, then it's not necessary to use it.
Are they tied to the escalation contingency?
What's up?
Are they tied to the 5%? Don't take it out there and start building, and all of a sudden it's 25%.
then the project won't go forward.
Yeah, then you have to
Which could happen.
engineer the project.
It's crazy times. I mean, a client of mine was telling me a sheet of plywood went from like $30 to $90.
Right. That's what David said. It was a
Crazy.
piece of plywood went, it tripled in
Well,
price.
hopefully, let's hope that by the time, this is going to be a while before these get going, maybe things will calm down. If not, I have a client who's building a house. He was ready to get started, and the builder told him it's going to be $100,000 more than he quoted him. $100,000.
Wow.
Jeez.
Crazy. It's crazy. So these again, we have numbers here. We're gonna vote on them. By the time we get to the point where it's ready to go, we might not be able to do these. It's very possible. So if things don't calm down.
I have another question, Tony. When we do individually, then are they individual bond issuances, or then if they're
No.
combined? Once
No,
they're
we'll
approved?
combine them once they're approved. It's just individual approval.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is the former firehouse, and as we all know, that it's in desperate need of all kinds of renovations, heating systems, etc. And it's renovations to the former firehouse to be used as a town community center and other related uses totaling $1,821,617. Anything at all on that you want to mention, Tony?
So that's the total cost, including soft cost. There's a design contingency and an owner's contingency
Yep.
in that as well. And basically, the design contingency would be if there's any unforeseen items in the existing design that occur during the construction that you didn't encounter. One would be like if you're digging for a foundation and you find like a rock in the ground. So that was something that wasn't anticipated during the design, and so that's what you would use the design contingency for. The owner's contingency is if you want to add scope. If you're putting it in the project is going along, you say, why didn't we include this, or why didn't we think of that, or let's add this. Use it. That's typically what the owner's contingency is for, or if the costs come in higher because of the price, the escalation. And then at the bottom, it has the funding sources. I tried to outline what would be bond funds versus there are some donated funds and existing funds and some grants.
So Tony, let me ask you a question on that. So if it says here bond funds, 1,764,000, why are we talking about, oh, that's the total cost,
Correct.
not the bond cost. Okay.
Right.
So 56,806 we already have.
Correct.
We're going to bond 1,764,811.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Any other questions? So I guess they've got a plan as to what they're gonna convert this into. And again, part of it is dependent upon number 2 being approved, because then the fire department can move all their gear and the old truck, et cetera, out of the former firehouse. So, okay. Any questions on this one?
That actually, Matt, just a question. So if for some reason the shed isn't approved, what does that do to the old firehouse?
That's a good question.
I guess we'll approach that. Hopefully not.
Right. Then that would be a question for the selectmen would have to decide what they would do next, and what course they would take.
Okay.
The old fire truck is staying in the old firehouse, right? According to the current design, no?
No, I think if you look at the
Right. There's
the plan for the shed, there's a bay for the antique. There's a bay for the antique.
so the antique truck goes into the storage facility, and then the fire department wouldn't have any storage at all in the old firehouse.
Oh, okay. Great.
All right. So then, is there any other questions on the former firehouse? Okay. All those in favor? Yes. 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 No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. The second one is the storage facility, and quite frankly, I have heard grumbling about this one. But the townspeople will decide. It's quite a building. I'm sure if you printed up your thing, there's a copy of it here.
So Tony, I noticed there's 2 versions of it. Could you explain the differences between the 2?
Certainly. So there was, I tried to put that in there so you can see sort of the evolution of the project.
Yeah, no, I did. I thought for other people it might be good to.
Yeah, okay. So the facility, the picture of the facility was as it was first presented. And the construction cost for that facility at the time came in closer to $550,000. And so the selectmen met with David and wanted to get that cost down. And so he came up with some ideas and suggestions for cost reduction, which is the second picture. And that would be to remove the gable roof, the dormers, the cupola, change the siding, reduce the number of windows, et cetera, et cetera. So he changed his design with those items, and he anticipates that'll bring the cost down about $50,000.
Okay.
So that's why the cost is at 500,000 instead of 550,000.
It showed the same picture, so that was really.
So he didn't make a new picture, so that's why it's the same.
That's why it might have been confusing.
And again, on this one, be aware of 628,950, 100,000. I think the fire association is putting up 100,000.
That's correct.
We have existing funds of 33,830. So the town is coming up with $495,120.
Correct.
Okay, that's what would be bonded.
That's the bond portion, right?
Okay. Any other questions on the storage facility?
Can I just ask, did the Board of Selectmen approve all of these unanimously?
No, I believe it was 5-1, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, one board member of the Board of Selectmen voted against the entire project.
Right.
All
of them, yeah.
May I ask who that was? I'm just curious.
Joe Dye,
Yeah.
He was against all of them? Uh-huh.
the entire project. The entire bond issue. All right, anything else? Okay, all those in favor? Aye, okay. Nobody's opposed? Okay. Next is the senior center, and I think we don't have to say too much about that. This is something that they've been asking for years and years, and they certainly need it. I mean, our seniors deserve a first-class center, and we're talking here. Again, let's realize that we have 128,205 sitting in a steep grant, and we have 10,000 existing funds. So this is going to cost the taxpayers 317,134 of the 455,339. So I think it's money well spent and very much needed. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor? Yes. Yes. Good. Okay.
Do we have a motion on that?
We need a motion on all these, or?
Oh, I thought we did on the others.
No,
Okay.
I'm just looking for approval. We'll make a motion on the whole thing when we're done.
Okay. Sorry.
Next is another one that's probably not too much is needed, but it's the Beecher Road School roofs on the K wing, the D wing, and the library at Beecher Road School, totaling $573,500, which the town will have to be paying the whole amount. I'm
And
assuming
the school mentioned, we discussed this, yeah, I think they're looking into reimbursements. And
Okay.
also, this was discussed at the capital budget meeting.
Okay.
If you remember, yeah.
Any questions on this one? Okay, I'm a yes. Yes, everybody? Yes. Okay. Sidewalks. This is, they want, I guess, kids are crossing the road from Amity and they want to make it safer, so. This is for sidewalks and streetscape improvements from Amity High School to the center of town, totaling $390,000.
Tony?
This has been discussed for quite a while, and I know Ellen hopefully appreciate we put this in this bond issue.
Absolutely. I think it's just great that this might finally happen. So, I mean, it's both for the kids and for the kids' safety. And now we're going to have the old firehouse and have a community. This is really important, I think, for building community and having a town center that might become a little bit more vibrant. So I think it's great. The kids can go to the library and the whole firehouse. Anyway, I think it's great.
Does this also get the high school athletes, mostly the girls, to the center fields?
Sure.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to create community and to link the high school with the center. And if you've seen, particularly when Amity dismisses around here, it's just,
Oh, yeah.
it's unbelievable, the number of cars. It's like a flash mob. It's like,
Yeah.
there's
Well,
tons of people and then they all disappear.
It's also concerning, as a parent with two kids who went through the school, having my daughter walk for soccer all the way to the center fields, and with there really nothing for them to really walk on. So I think it's important, and I think the safety issue is the biggest thing for me.
And Tom, we had a problem in the winter when the snow was piled up and the kids had to walk on the street.
Yeah.
And it was not good.
Can I just say, I'm totally supportive of this. But there's also a fundraising opportunity here that could be very community building. So I'm just putting that out.
Yeah.
We should bring that up. Okay. All those in favor? Yes, 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 yes. Good. Okay. And finally, and we know this is going to be controversial. I'm sure you all got this letter. There's a group out there that feels that we can sell the clubhouse. This is the demolition of all standing structures on the Woodbridge property, which would be the park barn, that halfway house that's contaminated, et cetera. And they're of the belief that we can put this up for sale for $1.5 million. And with that goes the clubhouse and 5 acres and a public invitation to bid, blah, blah, blah. So again, I'm sure we're going to hear this, and this is the reason we bring this to a town meeting, because they will certainly want to oppose this. And I don't think I have the vision to imagine somebody renovating that clubhouse into a catering facility. I mean, I was in there, Tony was with me, and Ed Sheehy, when we bid for it, and the place then was falling apart. And that was, what year was that, Tony? 09?
2009. Yeah, 09, 08.
I can't imagine what that clubhouse might be now. I mean, I can't imagine somebody wanted to put millions of dollars to renovate that.
Some problems with the facilities.
So I was in that building when we were operating as a country club and trying to make a go of the cafeteria, the kitchen upstairs.
Yeah.
So I think, and at the time, I think the numbers that were being thrown around was a minimum of $1 million to demolish that thing. So I'm just concerned that I think this is way underpriced. And I don't disagree with the petition for a referendum on what, maybe it takes care of both issues we have with, the country club and getting the thing torn down. So I just think that $766,000 is just not enough money. And I'm not saying I want to put more into it. I just think that I don't think that's enough. I mean, there's pollution issues there. There's remediation. The building is a disaster, literally. So, I'm concerned about that number.
Can I ask a sort of a logistic question, which is, this keeps coming up. A bunch of people keep claiming that clubhouse is great, and most of us think that they don't really know what they're talking about. And I'm concerned about, we've been talking about, bundling things into this bond offering so that we can get a better rate right now. Is there a way to, throw them a bone and say, you've got this amount of money, this amount of time to make some sort of a sale, but we still put it in the bond so that if it fails,
I think so.
That we can then go forward?
You could probably you could certainly authorize it, but not act on the financing right away. We'd probably issue notes, is my guess, for some of these projects, and then issue bonds after, so they'll give you some time to, figure it out.
I would love to sort of give them the opportunity to, sell that building, and when it doesn't happen, we can put the value of the building to rest finally.
Okay, I'll tell you, I think there are some people for whom you will never put it to rest. We have been through this many times. We've held it open for people. We've had people come to us and say, we know people want this. I'm sure you recall some of that, Tony.
I do.
I totally unrealistic. It's time. It's an eyesore and it's dangerous. I think it's time to demolish it. I also noted, and I don't know how you're all feeling about this, the letter that came tied the sale to declaring the rest of the property as open space. Now, we don't have to have anything to do with that, but I really don't think we need to revisit that. You know, I've been through it very closely.
Really?
I
Really?
understand. Say, fine. If there's a buyer who comes tomorrow and says, here's $1 million, you know, even if they came and said it, we saw what happened the last time, we'll still have an eyesore and we won't have taken care of it. I do have a question though. I wasn't sure, Tom, if you were saying that the bond issue amount to demolish it is too low. Is that,
Yeah,
I
that's
wasn't
exactly
clear
what
about
I'm
that.
saying. I'm not saying, I'm not advocating for more money to put into the bond. I'm saying that I'd like to know where that number came from.
I can tell you that. There's Dave, Silver Petroselli, we actually, contracted with them to come up with a detailed estimate on how much to demolish the building. Did I put it in here?
But we had a detailed
It is.
estimate back when we were looking to sell the country club, and I was on the Reds that I attend. I mean, it's just, I just don't think that that's enough money to do
Well,
what we do. I don't
Well,
know.
we had an estimate years ago, I think 5, 6 years ago, that was in the neighborhood of 400,000.
That's right. That's correct. Was one estimate we had, but admittedly, there's a lot of, a lot of unknowns about that building.
Yeah.
That have to be.
But
To
I
get in
mean,
there.
if it was 400,000, you know, years ago, and it's 766 today, that probably tracks in terms of what we know, right? There are obviously unknowns.
Oh, we'll find out. You know, we'll find out when the time comes. This is what we'll find out. I mean, there's a detailed report actually of the demolition. So let's we have to go with this because this is what they're estimating. So
Yeah.
we'll find out.
Definitely.
We'll find out. I would just like to say again, though, that the thing about selling this to a restaurant or a caterer, think about other catering facilities you've been to. One level, AquaTurf, all on one level. I'm thinking of a whole bunch of them. This has those horrific stairs in the front of that building, which is the only way to get up there. Is these narrow stairs, big wide stairway with no railings, and an elevator, literally that you can barely fit one person in, and certainly a one wheelchair. And so the renovations or the requirement to have an elevator alone would be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just
Right.
a little bit
There's an agreement that it's unrealistic.
It's not feasible. It is not feasible.
And the roof's been leaking for about 20 years.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine if we go in there now, the windows there were holes in the windows that were beyond belief.
We can push
But let's, you know what, they're gonna obviously they've got this petition and they're gonna go forward with it and let them. That's the right of these people to go forward with it. But if they could find somebody to honestly look at this building and say it can be without spending millions on it to make it workable, I think it'd be very.
And as long as we put in that we're going to have funds to demo it if they fail.
Exactly. So,
Has anyone requested a tour that they're interested in opening a restaurant or a facility? Has anyone?
No, I haven't heard of. No, we have not received any requests.
UNH was looking at it at one point in time.
yeah, they bailed.
No.
That's a number. That's a mess. The kitchen is completely antiquated.
The weather this turns in, by weather I mean WHETHER. The weather to turn this building into something else. That's not our call here, guys.
No.
Right. Our call is, you know, if we're told stop spending on demolition, that's one thing. Our only question is do we think it's legitimate to put in place funding going forward to demolish the building if somebody runs up with a cafeteria tray all of a sudden and says, no, stop the demolition? That's different. But that's not where we are.
Okay.
Right.
I don't want to revisit the last 12 years about this building.
Yes, I agree. All right, anything else on this?
So does that mean we're for it, right?
Yes, I am. Everybody else?
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather spend that
Right.
than $1 million. So
All right. So with that, I will now make a motion that we recommend that we send to a town meeting, we send it back to the Board of Selectmen to schedule a town meeting to consider the bond issue, the total bonding of $4,307,000, and the total project costs of $4,635,841.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any questions on that? It's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, yes.
Yes.
Good, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We'll get on, we'll work on the documents.
Mr. Genovese, if you would like to leave, Tony has a little
Thank you.
conflict. You're more than welcome to leave. I can handle the rest of this.
Okay, thank you. Everyone have a good night.
Hey, Tony.
Okay,
Hi,
Good night,
Tony.
Tony.
take it easy. Okay, next on the agenda is preliminary suspense list. And for those of you who don't remember, by state statute, we have to move accounts that have a certain age into what's called a suspense list. Let me just read what it says here. These accounts will be transferred to suspense and will be removed from consideration as assets of the town, but are not abated as a tax liability against whom it was levied. Personal property, motor vehicle, and real estate suspense taxes can and will be collected whenever possible. So a lot of these, especially real estate, there are liens on the properties for these. So we do remove them from the town balance sheet, if you want to say that, and take them off as assets. But the tax collector continues to pursue these on an ongoing basis. So, do we have to approve this? Yeah, I guess we have to vote on it, Karen.
No, it gets voted on next month. This is
okay,
just
good.
for your review.
Okay, good. Very good. So it's as to know. All right. Next is approval of minutes. Let me just find those. Let's see. I just have them. Bear with me. Let's see here.
I can't find the meeting.
Yeah, I just was looking at them. Here they are. Okay. I think it's just one. It's the meeting we had immediately following the preliminary budget hearing. It's the meeting minutes of Monday, April 19th, 2021, immediately following the preliminary budget hearing when we had our meeting. So I will move acceptance of the minutes of the Monday, April 19th, 2021 Board of Finance meeting as presented.
Second.
Any discussion, adjustments, etc.? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Good. Okay. For my next first selectman's report. Beth, are you with us, Beth?
I think she's
We
recuperating.
miss you, Beth. Hope you're feeling better. Beth had some surgery, and I think she scheduled it thinking that the town meeting was Monday and we'd be on our way, but obviously that didn't happen. So let's hope Beth feels better. Liaison reports. Okay. Amity is moving along. Nothing earth shattering at the last meeting. But what I'd like to cover at this point, for people who out there who are watching, the annual town meeting that we have now scheduled for June 2nd at 6:30 they're going to open up the firehouse, and so it's going to be open days, and they're going to put a tent, I guess, if the weather isn't right. But more importantly, the mechanics of the annual town meeting. Obviously, most of us have never seen a quorum, 250 people. I did once, and it's 1988. And to be honest with you, there was a gentleman in town who was an activist, and he got everybody fired up. And his main objective was at the time to eliminate the salary for our first selectman at that time, Russ Stock. And that was the big thing. And then of course everybody jumped on board. I think the meeting eventually they had to leave. We couldn't do it at the gym, so we went to the pretty sure it was the JCC, and we went there. And so here's what happens at the annual town meeting. I've heard mumblings and grumblings. My wife is all over this social media stuff. I'm not, but she tells me what. And there's people who are going to come and suggest we cut 5%, the budget by 5 or 10%. and so forth and so forth. That is going to be ruled out of order. The annual town meeting is this. You take the budget that you received and all the various departments, and if you want to cut a budget, you have to cut a particular budget. Can't cut the entire budget. That doesn't happen. You can't suggest that we're going to cut 5% from the bottom line. That's not going to happen. This is a line item by line item budget review. So you take the first. I'm just going to take the first one on here is the Board of Selectmen. You go to the Board of Selectmen budget and you look at all the various. If you want to cut it, you go to all the various line items, and you suggest and you tell us which line items you'd like to cut. And on every line item that you'd like to cut, there is a vote taken. So when the meeting is started at 6:30, I believe it is, there will be a count taken. And if there's a quorum of 250 people, the vote will take place. If there's not, then as has been in the past, the budget will pass based on not enough people being there. So 250 people, they're going to have to count 250 people, and then 60% are going to have to vote in favor of any line item cuts that are recommended or suggested. And every time we take a vote, we're going to have to make sure there's 250 people there, and then make sure there's 60% in favor. So what happened at this meeting I'm referring to back in 1988 was everybody was fired up, and the discussion of the first selectman's salary took 45 minutes, if I remember correctly. And it was discussed, and it was voted down. And anyway, make a long story short, within a very short period of time, people were realizing this is going to be a long meeting, and they started leaving. And very soon thereafter, there wasn't a quorum anymore. The minute there's not a quorum, the meeting stops. There's no longer a meeting. So people who are planning to come that night, and they're going to be part of the 250, if there are 250, you got to stay. Because if you leave and the count, and again, all we're going to be doing is counting. Because the minute that the quorum goes below 250, the meeting is over. So that's basically it. I just want people to understand that those who think they're going to cut this budget by a percentage, or we're going to say cut 300,000 off of the bottom, it's not happening that way. Now, I'd like to repeat something I said again and again in the past couple of years, and that is, number one, there are 4 budgets on this sheet that make up 75% of the total budget. Those being the Amity Board of Education, which you can't touch because it was passed at a referendum. There is debt service, which you can't touch because we have to pay our debt and we have to pay our interest. So you can't make a recommendation or make a motion to cut debt service. There is employee benefits, same thing, except for the OPEB contribution we make. If someone wants to make a motion that we cut the OPEB contribution, that's something that's up for grabs. As far as all of the medical benefits, pensions, et cetera, those are contract negotiations, which we have to adhere to. If people are unhappy with the benefits, et cetera, then they should go and complain to the departments and to the people who set those things that they think they're too high and they should be lowered, et cetera, et cetera. But you're not cutting them at this town meeting. Then there's the Woodbridge Board of Education. That you can cut the bottom line only. There's no line item review of the Woodbridge Board of Education. So if someone wants to suggest cutting X number of dollars, that can be voted on. And keep in mind that we cannot set the Board of Ed budget below the previous year. You must at least fund it with the same amount that they got in the previous year. So, and I would hope that this budget, the people over at Beecher really worked on this and got it down, and also got their deficit down that they were proposing we pay for the previous year. So, excuse me, that's my crazy phone. So just be aware of that. That leaves 25% of the budget, which are all the other departments combined. You heard very clearly at previous meetings that over the past 5 or 6 years, we have actually reduced the money we spend for the other government other than these 4 departments. Positions have been eliminated. We've as we've said again and again, we've really trimmed costs in these areas. So if someone is of the mind that they want to cut this budget, they're going to have to go into all these various departments and tell us what they want us to cut. what they want to vote on to cut. And that's the way it's going to work. So you're going to start is it the moderator? I guess the moderator is going to start with the Board of Selectmen, and he's going to ask for line item recommendations. If anybody wants to cut the Board of Selectmen, line item recommendations, and you're going to have to come up with various line items. So somebody's going to have to do a lot of work once they determine how much they think we should cut from this budget, and it's not going to be easy. So I just want to make that clear, that people coming that night think they're going to vote, they just want to vote the budget down. No, that's not what happens at the town meeting. I think Sandy Stein clearly stated what the annual town meeting is. It is not a Board of Selectmen meeting. It is not a Board of Finance meeting. It is a town meeting where the taxpayers have their say on the budget line item by line item. So I just want people I hope people are watching this, and I hope that the instructions that we put out for this town meeting are clear and that they understand that it's not going to be a free-for-all where they're just going to start cutting like crazy people. It doesn't work that way. It's going to have to be a line item by line item by line item by department. And that's the way it works. So if people are really intent on cutting this budget, they better be prepared to be there 5-6 hours at least, because just think of how many hundreds and hundreds of line items there are in all these budgets. And again, one last time, 75% of the budget is spoken for. There's 25% left, which is like 13 million, something like that. And if you can cut significant amounts of money from there, you're going to hurt these departments badly. So keep it in mind. More than welcome, please come to the meeting and participate, but keep in mind that it's not quite what I think people think they can do at this meeting. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, liaison reports. Ellen, do you have anything?
Yes, I was at the Human Services meeting on May 4th. Human Services is working with the library and the rec department on summer second Saturday events, and the one they're doing is a community tag sale on June 12th, and you can rent a table, I think, for $12. So if you have stuff in your house you want to get rid of, I think it's a great opportunity. Also, the center reopened for in-person programming on April 15th. And youth services are going well. They're very well subscribed. And also, Human Services partnered with other agencies, and they were able to deliver vaccines at home to homebound people, which I think was part of their continuing really terrific efforts on the vaccination side. So I wanted to give them kudos for that.
Okay, thank you. Tom Handler.
So I was at the Beecher Finance Committee meeting earlier this month. As you see in our packet, they once again have gotten more money in a surplus, so they're up to, I think, 28,000. They're doing a really good job finding and ways of getting rid of that huge deficit that we all saw in the beginning. Dr. Budd is doing a really good job at looking at things. One thing I wanted to talk about was that they're expecting a third wave of money, a large sum of money, I can't recall exactly how much at this point, that they will be able to use for innovation. So that should be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. The other thing that comes up every year is the SRO, and you may recall that they had a committee to look at what to do with the SRO at Beecher. With the interim superintendent and then a new superintendent, that was sort of tabled for the new superintendent to take over. The original call was to start that in April and May. At the meeting they discussed, and it was discussed briefly at the finance committee because it clearly has budgetary implications. But up in Hartford, there's a bill that's looking into what to do with SROs in schools. So they decided to wait and see what happens in Hartford, whether the bill is acted on, what it actually says, rather than to move forward prematurely, which I think is a good idea. They also are looking at the after-school program, which has certainly been in trouble this year because of COVID, and looking to see what they can do with that as well. So again, I just give them kudos. I think Dr. Budd is doing a really good job of looking into ways of trimming the budget, and they're doing a good job. So again, kudos to them.
So is the SRO funding in the budget?
Sorry, say that again.
The SRO funding in the budget?
Yes.
That we now included in our budget, so it's there. Okay,
It's still here.
thank you.
Okay, Susan,
I guess the best way to put this is the library is continuing to normalize, to kind of integrate themselves and our participation into more normal track. So that's the good news, very short. Fire department's actually meeting next week. That's all I have.
thank you. Paul Perico.
The Board of Police Commissioners were not able to meet because of some technical difficulties, so I have nothing to report.
Okay, Tom Kennefac.
Recreation met last month, and recreation programs have been successfully reopened. Johnny A's been going out to the different fields and just kind of getting a feel for what's going on, and generally people are obeying the masking rules, and I think that's going to be reevaluated after the 19th. So see where we are with that going forward while the kids are outside. The pool is getting ready for summer. They've been open. It's been appointment only, and the lanes have been full, and so most of the people usually show up for their appointments, so that's good. So it's been busy. And let's see, they're going to reevaluate opening more days for the pool and a little bit more fully once they can reevaluate after the changes were made for the indoor gatherings. Summer concerts look like they're going to be a go. I think it's going to be the same group that they had scheduled for last year. They're thinking about getting an ice cream truck there. They usually have tables around the perimeter where they have a community group set up with tables. So they're probably not going to do that this year because they're just trying to get, as safe as possible. So rather than having people at the tables, I think that'll probably be another year before that happens. Fitness center has been operating really well. It's been on Saturdays and Sundays, but again, they're going to reevaluate once the center building is completely open and they have a chance to look at the new regulations, and they're hoping to open like on I think Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays as well. Tennis is always full. Again, I think that's also by appointment. So that's been, there's always somebody playing tennis. And they also have a running club has been meeting again, and basketball. And finally, the traffic authority has approved the Woodbridge Road Race. So that'll be on October 2nd.
Okay,
From an expense perspective, budgetary perspective, everything looks good so far.
okay, anything else? Anybody? All right, so June 2nd, which is a Wednesday night, I believe they're going to open the doors at 5:30. It's going to be a challenge because parking is an issue. If they have a big crowd, I think they're talking about parking at Amity and shuttling them by bus to the fire department. So
Yeah, because I don't think they're going to be able to park in the parking lot because if there is a call during the
right. Well, they're going to move all the trucks there too, right? Yeah.
They'll have
right.
to
So
have.
who knows? Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I was a little disappointed they couldn't use the Amity auditorium like we did for the country club at Woodbridge, but for some reason I don't know what the problem was. They chose the firehouse, so it'll be a challenge because, like I said, yeah, I mean, parking is going to be an issue. So
Use football field.
mhm.
Use the
So,
football field.
so June 2nd, I believe from what I can understand, there'll be more coming out. You guys can check. 5:30, the doors open. 6:30, the meeting starts. And we, the Board of Finance, need to be there at the end because we're going to, hopefully, if this meeting ends, and we're going to have to vote on to set the mill rate. So keep that in mind. If you can't be there at the beginning, you've got to be there at the end when it's over. But who knows? This is going to be a unique meeting. I don't think we've ever had anything like this, and we're going to see. We'll see how it goes. But I just based on the remarks that my wife has shown me on the social media, et cetera, there's a lot of people who are very upset.
Yeah, it has to be in person. We can't.
Yeah, definitely.
That meeting was awful.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Can I just take issue with one thing?
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people understand that as clumsy and as difficult as that meeting was, this was that date was set long ago, was driven by COVID protocols. We had very little discretion at that point. In fact, we had no discretion at that point but to set it up that way. That this was not done for any reason other than to follow the procedures set forth in COVID protocols and for everyone's safety. And I think it's important to understand that. Was it awkward? Yes. Was it complicated? Yes. But that's the reason it was set up like that. And that date was set back in December, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
I
you're
just
right.
think that clarification is important.
And I think, again, you'll learn as you go, but the situation where you had four people sitting behind a computer saying, there's four of us here. I think, hopefully we're never going to do this again, but they all should have their own device, I believe. If they're going to be participating in the meeting, they should all be on their own device and not have a group meeting. So, but it's over with. We're going to have a live meeting. I hope it's a productive meeting and not one of total criticism. But we'll see. We'll see. So with that,
Motion to adjourn.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll take
So
it.
moved.
Motion.
Okay. See you on June 2nd. Just keep reading. There's going to be, I'm sure we're going to learn more and more about how this is going to happen. So
Bye, everybody.
have a good evening.